So my husband and I met when we were 18 years old, if you can believe it.
Our wedding day was this magical day in the fall, and we had this plan to go to California pretty much right after that.
We just wanted an adventure. We needed something spicy. I knew I wanted a bunch of kids. I wanted a big family.
When James was born, he was just this beautiful enhancement to our life.
I was a young mother. I was 25 and turned 26, so I had a little bit of time with him before everything would change. April 21st, 2008 started just like a normal day.
I was in the final stretch of law school. James was 6 months old. I sort of went, in our bedroom while she was in the kitchen and heard that sort of cry out of my name, Jay, from the other room. I run in and she just immediately started to collapse.
And started throwing up, felt very dizzy, everything got loud.
Her eyes, there was just this like black holes. The pupil was huge. So I called 911 and they packed her up on a stretcher and took her to the ER of the day, which was UCLA. I remember grabbing James and kind of putting him in the car and just following down after them.
I had what's called an AVM, arterial venous malformation rupture in my brainstem, and it caused a massive brainstem stroke.
I think the idea of a stroke was very foreign, certainly for somebody like Katherine with no medical history, super healthy.
Young, vibrant, healthy Katherine. The surgeon, Nestor Gonzalez, who happened to be on call and saved my life.
He said, you need to know your wife is probably not going to survive the day.
And he went back to his office and says he just could not get the image of that father and that baby out of his head. And he just knew, he said, I've got to give that baby a chance to have his mother.
Even if it is risky, even if, there are crazy liabilities.
My full blood volume would need to be replaced 5 times during the surgery. In other words, I just wouldn't die.
The sun came up that next morning, and there had been about 100 people there, and still many folks waited the whole night with me until Dr. Gonzalez came out that next morning and looked exhausted and said he hadn't even looked at the clock the whole night and that it had been 16 hours of surgery to save Katherine's life, and he said Katherine lived.
I spent 40 days in ICU on life support, then nearly 4 months in acute rehab at UCLA, and then another 1.5 years at a brain rehab.
It took probably 5 years to sort of come up for air after the stroke.
I was in this cycle of surgeries and therapies.
Just going from one doctor's visit, one new prognosis, one thing that didn't quite work.
And it was so hard and so painful to watch your husband deal with this, your child, everybody in my life. I wanted to go home really bad. And then there came a point of saying, I just wanted to go home to my new life now. I want to go home even if home looks different. It had always been a desire to have a lot of children, more children, and after the stroke, a sibling for James. All those dreams came crashing down after a routine MRI was done, and Dr. Gonzalez told us that I have a new brain aneurysm on the other side of my brain.
In that moment, too, Dr. Gonzalez said, hey, you guys have been through so much, and I know this is insane that you're having to go through this again, but I want you to know that I can help you really uniquely.
He had partnered with Stryker to pioneer a technique that would coil aneurysms.
In Katherine's instance, it was elected to pursue an endovascular coil embolization. In very simplified terms, the treating physician works to gain access to the affected aneurysm by delivering a very tiny catheter all the way from the patient's groin to the site of the aneurysm in the brain. That microcatheter then becomes the pathway to allow the passage of incredibly small, soft metal coils that are placed into the aneurysm to create a tiny metal ball that helps prevent future blood flow from entering the brain, and in a sense, the aneurysm is secured.
This was 2013. The aneurysm was successfully removed through coiling in November.
The outcome was incredible, and her brain was given sort of the thumbs up by all of her doctors to proceed with pregnancy, which happened really quickly after we started trying, which is our first and only probably medical shortcut in the story.
When John Nestor came into the world, Nestor Gonzalez came into the hospital room, and he held his namesake. Dr. Nestor, combined with these incredible Stryker products, have equaled this outcome. There are hard things, and there are good things, and they are not mutually exclusive. That's a picture of a family who's gone on after tremendous odds were stacked against them. That's a husband who stayed with his wife when they'd been married only 3 years when this happened. That's a family who is thriving and flourishing within the constraints of their life.